On Halloween 1982, James Adamski disappeared after leaving a party. James was just 18 years old and a student at Depew High School in Cheektowaga, New York. Months later, James was found in a shallow grave, still in his Halloween costume. He had been bludgeoned to death. This case remains unsolved. Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my co-anchor, sister, and partner in crime, Christy Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody.
How are we doing?
Good. Really good.
Yeah. Wednesday case.
Yeah. Loving life. Getting ready to go camping.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I love Labor Day camping.
Me too. I'm trying to figure out how to swing this.
Right. You've got a lot
We're going to drop the kid off at college for the next few days and then come home, and I might only make it up to sit around the campfire. I don't know. I really want to come camping, so we'll see. Yeah.
You might make it happen.
With just two of us, I mean, how much packing would I really have to do, you know?
Not that much.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, we'll see. Mm-hmm. But before that, we still have plenty of ground to cover with True Crime Paranormal this week.
Wait, don't we?
This is our Wednesday case. So, Christy, I think we'll just go ahead and get into it. This case actually happened on Halloween in 1982. It's just, it sucks. It sucks so much for this poor family.
It does suck.
So, James Adamski went to a party. He went to some kind of a pub where you pay a flat fee and then drink all you want, you know, party all you want kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he was dressed as an American gigolo. So he had on jewelry and a hat and a scarf and chains. And, you know, this was very 1982.
This was the 80s. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he left the bar at some point and was walking home. And at some point he met up with a girl that he knew that he walked with for a while and then was parted from her. And the last anyone saw him was about 3:30 in the morning walking down the road, and that was it. He was just not seen again. Which obviously, you know, makes no sense at all, but he wasn't. And his brother, his 10-year-old brother, 10 at the time, James was his hero. He was his idol. Yeah. And he said that the last thing his brother said to him was that he kissed him on the cheek and told him to have fun trick-or-treating, and off he went, and he never saw his brother again. And in an interview, he said that it's ruined Halloween from him for life. Can you imagine?
I bet it has. That's really sad.
Interview in the Buffalo News. Yeah. Just horrifying. Yeah. So anyhow, there was a huge search for him that went on for quite a while. And everybody, you know, in their town, in their area, looked and looked and looked. And especially because this was a kid who did what he was told. Like, he didn't make a habit of staying out all night or being where he wasn't supposed to be. His parents knew where he was. They knew when he'd be home, and he wasn't. And that was just really, really not like him. So, you know, and other people in the community that knew him, everyone knew something was very wrong if he wasn't just home. And the people he'd been with at the bar knew when he left, you know, and like this was just a strange thing. So he was walking along Transit Road. Again, at like 3:30 in the morning was the last time anybody saw him. So the police in the area and the volunteer firefighters, search and rescue, everybody was out looking for him for weeks and weeks. Nothing. And finally, on December 26th, the day after Christmas, isn't this wild? He goes missing on Halloween. He's found the day after Christmas.
Way to ruin the holidays for his family.
Right. 2 rabbit hunters found him in kind of a shallow grave under some twigs and leaves and stuff west of the Ransom Road in town, so about 4 miles from where he was seen alive. He was still wearing his Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I think it's so sad. He had on his gaudy clothes and his scarf and his jewelry and everything. He was beat to death with a blunt instrument. They're not sure if it could have been a 2x4 or maybe even a baseball bat. He had numerous wounds of blows to the head.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel like this was the effort to hide the body without having adequate tools. They it looks like they kind of dug out maybe with their hands a little trench and put him in it.
All happened. None of this was planned. It all happened so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It just, yeah.
So they said the twigs looked like they had been literally just broken off trees to cover him. They even sent some of the twigs to a laboratory to see if they could find any or draw any fingerprints off of them, but they couldn't. There was just no identifying anything on his body that would help him know who did this. So they went back and started talking to people who were at the party. Friends, even former girlfriends, people that knew him, they all said, yeah, we saw him here, everything. He was fine. There was no known enemies. And, everybody liked James. There was just no reason why anybody would kill him, or at least that's what they were told, Now, I will say this. I have seen people, recently someone on Facebook was talking about how someone had vandalized their kid's car and how could they possibly do that because their kid is an absolute angel and everyone loves them. And my kids laughed themselves sick about it because they said that is the furthest thing from the truth that they've ever heard.
They know that kid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we're like, what are you talking about? So I think you have to take some of that with a grain of salt. But truly, I think if an ex-girlfriend from high school will say that you're okay, you're probably okay.
Right.
But he wasn't a troublemaker. He'd never been in any trouble at all.
No.
Now, some of the people at the party said that he had had quite a lot to drink and that there had been a little argument at the party with him and some other people. Not a major argument, nothing that was actually violent, but there had been kind of a little dust up.
It was unrelated. It was unrelated.
So the police just don't know if someone picked him up as a hitchhiker. They thought maybe that was true, except for that he'd never been a hitchhiker in the past, or if someone forced him into their car. They just do not know. And so they actually just recently reopened his case. They have sent his clothing off for DNA analysis to see if anything comes up, but they still just don't know. His family was just so broken by all of this. And it's just sad. It's really sad. His brother is still so devastated. And his whole family, it was just a terrible thing. It looks like his parents have passed now. But as a teenager, this kid loved art and he loved to bowl. He really loved Halloween and was super excited to get dressed up and to go to this party. And he was an awesome brother. You figure he was 18, his brother was 10. His brother said he'd ride around with him on the handlebars of his bike and play with him and take him to hang out with his friends, and was just awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very sad loss.
Yeah. His brother, Andy, says that after he died, Mom became super, super overprotective. She wouldn't let him ride the bus to school. She wouldn't let him walk anywhere, of course, Yeah. He had to be home before the street lights were on. She was just so afraid. And she said that he said she was very paranoid that whoever killed whoever killed James would come back and kill Andy at some point too. She was so afraid. It completely destroyed his parents. Yep. So, but that's the whole case. That's everything I've got for you.
Okay.
So, Christy, I'm sorry there's not better bones than that. Those are the bones. That's it. So, what happened to James? Who did this?
So, while James was walking down that road, he came upon 3 young men. They were a little younger than him, more like 16-ish. And they were kind of looking for a fight. You know how people kind of get up to mischief on Halloween?
Mhm.
These 3 boys were out there doing that. They'd been doing some vandalizing. They had a baseball bat that they were using to bust up people's pumpkins.
Hmm.
And they came upon James. They started throwing some attitude at him, and he was kind of drunk, and he didn't. Usually, he would not bite, he would not take the bait on something like that. But because he'd been drinking, his inhibition was down, and he started back at them, and an argument ensued. And before you know it, it became physical, and they literally beat him to death. They did
Oh.
not mean to. It was not planned. There was no intention. They didn't know him. He did not know them.
Mhm.
It was just a very terrible event. And these kids were absolutely terrified once they realized what they'd done, that they'd killed him.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, they did. They got a hold of it. They got him into a car, and they drove him to where his body was found, and they just dug as much of a grave as they could and put him in it, and just tried to go on with their lives as though nothing happened.
Seems like they did go on with their lives like nothing happened.
They did. I will say that all of them are in prison now. In my intent, or my sense of all of them, is that they never recovered from this, and it ruined their lives. That they all ended up with alcohol problems and other problems with violence, and I do feel like it ruined their lives as well. But it was just boys doing stupid stuff, and he would not have normally taken them on, but
Mhm.
because he'd been drinking and he didn't like their attitude toward him,
Mhm.
he kind of went back at them, and before you know it, and one of them has a weapon, and it's really sad. And it's awful that they didn't admit to what they had done so that his family would have some closure. But
Yeah.
he didn't do anything to deserve this. No one was coming after his family. No one was coming after his brother. These boys
No.
tried to go back to their lives as if nothing had happened. It was not successful for them. It definitely ruined their lives as well. But it was just a terrible event that, sometimes people just get out of control, and that's what happened here.
Mhm.
None of
Do
them got
you
up that
think?
morning and went, "We're gonna kill somebody." It just wasn't like
Sure.
that.
No. No, and they were idiots, but they weren't murderers until that moment.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that the DNA will turn any fruit? I mean, where they're in the system.
They are in the system, but they beat him with the baseball bat, not their fists. And so, no, I don't think there
Yeah.
will be anything, unfortunately. I don't really feel like there's anything to find.
Mhm.
I mean, I could be wrong, and I hope that I am, but it doesn't feel to me like there will ever be a resolution here.
Yeah.
It sucks. That's awful for his brother, for his parents. Like, that's just horrible.
Right.
But also for these boys, their parents probably wonder what happened
Mhm.
that year that turned their kid into a disaster,
Mhm.
because this happened.
Yeah. Yep. Wow.
Mm. Wow, that is a really sad story.
Yes, it is. Really, really sad for that whole community. So, because he was a senior, so then the whole rest of the school year, this
Yeah,
classmate had been missing and then murdered, and
right,
all of his schoolmates got to live with that as well.
right.
And just thinking about being in high school and having kids in our class die
Yeah, which did
from car
happen.
accidents and from cancer, not from murder, but how much it shook up our school and how
I
much
did have a
it.
classmate die of murder.
Which one?
Strobel.
Oh, yes. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you mean my
I
friend
know. It's
Josh? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello.
I was like,
Yeah.
"You know him."
Mm,
It's terrible, it's terrible. It really
yeah.
throws this cloud over everything. Like, it
Mhm.
really brings that sense of mortality to you even though you're still a kid.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and then of course graduation comes and there's an empty seat there for this person who should have been there and
Right.
just all of it. All
Yeah.
righty. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad to hear that your read. I feel like you're right on. That's just It's just so dang sad. Yeah.
It is. It's just a tragedy all the way around for
Mhm.
everyone involved, and it never should have happened. Just
No.
it's why when we were kids, we weren't allowed to stay out that late,
Mhm.
and, it's why teenagers need boundaries
Mhm.
because bad
Yep.
things can happen, and
Yep.
this is just one of those it's one of those. It's why those rules exist, really.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Well, and a lot of teenage boys kind of go through a phase where they really need to be a badass, And
Mhm, and
obviously
this
they're
was
in that phase trying to be tough guys.
yeah, you know how, like, vandalism and stupid stuff like that happens on Halloween, that's what they were out doing.
Mhm. Yep. Mm, terrible. All righty. Well, thank you. So this, of course, is our Wednesday case. We will be back. Christy will be back tonight for case updates at 7. That's a live stream.
Mhm.
Then at 9, she's going to watch the 48 Hours special interviewing Chad Daybell's kids and come back and do a little live stream and talk about all of that nonsense.
Yep.
And it will be nonsense. And then she will be back on Thursday night with a really special psychic hour. Since I will be traveling, she's coming back with her wife, Rhonda. You guys, I'm so excited that you finally get to meet Rhonda. You are going to adore her.
Yeah,
So I'm so
she's
glad.
awesome.
I'm bummed I don't get to be here to join her, but I'm so glad that you guys do. So that's Thursday night at 7 p.m. for the psychic hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So there you go. All righty. Well, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, comment, share if you feel compelled. And as always, if you want to send us a case, come over to truecrimeparanormalpodcast.com and scroll down to the bottom. There's a form there to fill out that you can send cases over to us if you want us to take a look at them. So you have been listening to another production of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, guys.